Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Developing Creativity in K-12 Classrooms. My name's Pip Cleves. I'm an Adobe Education Leader as well as a teacher, and at the moment I'm out of the classroom with my own consulting agency, but I am here predominantly as an Adobe Education Leader. So what we're going to be doing today is probably one of my favorite topics at the moment, and that's the why about creativity. Going to show you, I think it's all well and good to say to develop the understanding around the imperative of developing creativity, but it's also important to show examples of what you can do in your classrooms to help develop students' creativity. So that's what we're going to be doing. If you have any questions during the day, please pop them into this discussion zone and I'll be sure to answer them. We have a couple of, one AEL who'll be sort of presenting in our session today, and then I'll be showing a lot of work from other Adobe Education leaders from around Australia. So the first work that I wanted to share with you today is a brand new study that Adobe has just released that was commissioned and released in December. And of course, I'm just trying to, here we go. I'm just going to pop the link for this into the pod. So that you can click on it and watch. This session is being recorded, and we'll make sure that all of you who are present today will be sent a link for the recording. So this creativity study was done based out of America, but I think it probably rings pretty true for Australia as well. And the reason I like this the most is Adobe questioned both human resource personnel in companies and managers around what they think is important to do with creativity. And I often think of creativity, for me, when we talk about a definition of creativity, it comes in two bits. There's the creative doing, which is the creative industry, those people who use the tools to create eye candy, as I call them, in beautiful design. And then there's the creative thinkers, people who think differently, who think outside the square, who are great problem solvers. And the two of them sit side by side and interconnect at places, but can also run parallel. So this study that was done probably focused more on people who are creative thinkers, which I think is really cool because every teacher can teach creative thinking in their classroom. So if we have a look at this, just this summary infographic here, it says creativity, when people were asked, is creativity critical to economic growth? 78% of those hiring managers, i.e. the human resource people, said it is important, and 51% of them agreed that creativity is important. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there, but you can see that human resources people believe that creative thinking, problem-solving people are more worthy to employ, are more worthy to come on board than those that don't display that, and that economic growth. If we see here, are students ready for today's dynamic workplace? You'll see that 7 in 10 human resource people say no, they're not ready. So we're not preparing our students for the workforce, which is a little bit scary in my mind. We need to be making sure. I have 3 teenage children, and I always say that my main role as an educator is to make sure that they can walk into any workplace and be prepared for the future. So we need to work with that. And what skills are the most important or give the most value to a raise in salary for young people? And 51% says people who are problem solvers, and 47%, and I take this as the thinking problem solving, and the 47% is the creative people. So that's very powerful. If you have those skills and you have that ability, it means you're going to probably, while money isn't everything, we know it does make a difference on our lifestyle. So it says that interestingly, hiring people, so human resource people, say of every 88% of them say a tech savvy applicant is very important. This is really interesting. If we think about what we're doing with students, we need to ensure that they are developing those IT skills, and not just being exposed to technology, but really developing the skills and creative skills. And we want them, they also want them to be able to communicate through visual and digital media and be creative people as well. So To me, it's actually this box here on the right-hand side, the what skills are becoming essential for new human resources or new people to use, and that's those. So, and it also says here that creative skills are preferred over conventional skills by more than 5 to 1 companies. Wow, pretty important stuff to think of. So this research is available through that link there, so you can just click and get to that. But it's a pretty clear indication that as educators, we need to be thinking about what we can do. Hi Alexander, great to see you. What we can do to develop students' creativity. So first of all today I'm going to introduce you to Brett Kent. Brett is being called up for jury duty on the last minute, wouldn't you know it? But he's created a presentation for us to watch. And Brett is a kindergarten teacher, not kindergarten, sorry, a primary school teacher in Western Sydney in the Marylands area. And his students use Adobe products from kindergarten right through to year 6. And he gives them the most amazing development skills. It's just fantastic. So let's sit back and watch Brett's presentation for a while and see how we go. Oh, whoops. I got it completely wrong. That's okay. Before we watch Brett, let's just take on. For some reason, I'm nervous today. Let's just take a step back. If we're thinking about the creativity and what students need to work in workplaces, what's stopping us as schools then from creating these opportunities? What's stopping us from being creative in our schools? Please feel free to type in what do you think is stopping us as teachers from developing creative activities or developing creative students. This is a great little infographic video which will show you some of those things, and you might be interested to see what you think, whether it aligns. That's a lovely little study. I'll make sure the link to that is shared with you towards the end as well. They can show, just because we know that we need creativity, there's still some barriers that are stopping us within schools. So let's move on to people who are not letting these barriers stop them. Let's see what some people are doing. And first of all, as I mentioned, is Brett Kent. And Brett is an IT teacher at the moment. He works with teachers to help develop IT skills in students. So let's see what he does with his students.
Hey everybody, this is my presentation on developing creativity in the primary classroom. Now, this was a series of work that we created at Hilltop Road Public School across all the grades, right from kindergarten right through to year 6. The kindergarten students at our school are starting at ages 4 and 5, and we move through for our year 6 students, which finish up with us at age 11 or 12. Now, the thing that I work predominantly with kindergarten is Illustrator. Now here we can see a couple of images that were created towards the end of their time using Illustrator, when they sort of started to get used to the program and started to get more comfortable with using some of the tools. Now in these images here we can see a range of different techniques, including everything from filling the shapes with solid colours right through to applying gradient fills, and using varying different tools like paint and pencil, and even moving into using the pen tool. But where do we begin with this stuff? We actually start by starting off with using the paint tool predominantly and the pencil tool, and I start them just simply drawing, and we can see down in the bottom right hand corner there we've got a spider web that's been made by one of my kindy students. You can see that he's already started to add some gradient over the top of those vector lines that he's created. He's added a little bit of text, but we can see that it's a rudimentary type of drawing. I then move them on to some techniques where you can see like the development of vector graphic, where we start to actually use the shape tool. We start to actually build up things, circles, ellipses, all different kinds of shapes, and I actually get them to then start changing the outline, changing the stroke, changing the fill. And it's a concept of actually starting to understand the terminology around what is a vector, what is fill, what is stroke, what are these terms that I'm using here. Now I understand that these students are in kindergarten, but it's important to actually get the vocab built up from the beginning. And then we move on from there into actually using the pen tool, and I got a little bit of inspiration from the heroic Rob Schwartz, one of the AELs in California, who he is really, really good at developing students' technique with using the pen tool, and we can see the bird that's drawn on the top right hand side of the screen right now that was made using the pen tool and a combination with the paint tool, and it's a fairly simple drawing, but at the same time it's very effective and very artistic, and it's developing a conceptual understanding of the way these programs work, when we consider that the student would have been 4 or 5 at the time. We then move on to my Year 1 students. Now, my Year 1 students I have working with InDesign, and I have them actually creating units of work that build upon theme units that they do within their classroom. Now, these students that I am showcasing here, they were working on a unit of work around Japanese culture, but they were also doing some work on the garden and growing food and sustainable production. And what we can see here is that they've actually worked in a combination of Illustrator, building upon their kindergarten developed knowledge. They've then started to work in Photoshop, working with very basic image manipulation, and then they've also started to publish things out in InDesign, and these are hyperlinked and animated, and we're using some of the tools within InDesign that would be impossible to do without such a tool. We can see here that the images and the pages that they've created have remained quite simple in a sense, but they've actually started to build upon the knowledge, and they've started to actually incorporate the knowledge that they're gaining in class and putting it all together with the concepts of graphics and design and making something that can be consumed by others and something that will solve a need. I then move on to a unit of work, a project that I did with some Year 2 students around 3D design and conceptual designing in itself. And what we actually started to do was design toys, and we said, well, what is a toy that you wish you could have that doesn't already exist? And the idea of actually making a toy that doesn't already exist, we found that many of the students actually have a toy in mind that they really want. It's something that they really, really want to go out and buy, but it's something that's already available, something that is already being advertised to them. But we're saying, but you're the child, you're the one who plays with the toy. What's something that you want? What's something that you would like to have and take home and play with? And the students went about making a whole range of different conceptual ideas. Everything from, we can see here, a car that's shaped like a cat that's got a cannon on it and a castle in the background. We can see here a Formula One car that's got a gigantic engine and wings. And in that image you can also see that we've got a build-up of prototyping. We've got the on-screen, we've got prototype 1 that didn't print very well. We've got prototype 2 that was a more successful print, and the idea of 3D space and actually designing, prototyping, redesigning is something that was a learn-on-the-job type of a experience for the students. And we can also see that the students have begun to put things together in a design and a sort of an image-based way to actually develop a concept around their design by adding the extra features that they can do in Photoshop, like shadows and photographs in the background, and actually building up a bit of a story visually in that manner. Some of the other Year 2 students actually were working on, again, Japanese culture, but we started to look at the concept of manga, and we started to look at the concept of making comic books. And the students went about, again, illustrating in Illustrator, colouring in Photoshop, and then publishing out with InDesign. And we can see here that this has now been exported to PDF, and the students have actually built up a story around not only a culture, not only a process of working, but also allowing them to develop some creative tools in the process. Here we can see some Year 3 and 4 work. Now this is a unit of work, a project that went on and on and on for a very, very long time. And what we actually did was we asked our local library and our local council to give us a concept of what they would like to hear. What's something that they would actually like to have the students present. And the idea was that they were actually selling our local area. And by selling our local area, I mean they're selling the idea that it is a nice area. And I've got a screen grab here that you can see that is a link to our local library's Facebook page where their videos were actually shared out to. And the concept was that the students had to make a 30-second commercial that sold the area and explained that it was a nice area to be in. And the reasoning behind that was that the area that our school is in is often known as it's an area that gets a lot of press. It's an area that gets a lot of media attention for negative reasons. But our students sit, they watch the news, and they say, but I live here. This is a nice area. I like going to this school. I like my area. I don't feel unsafe. So we asked them to actually present that idea to the public. We can see the students here presenting their campaigns to the local library, to the general public, and this was done on a day when the library was open to the public and people were coming in and they were watching our students actually present their campaigns. This is one of the examples of one of the students' work that got published out.
Maryland's road was built in 1890s, and there was not many people living there. Maryland's road has changed a lot over the years. After the 1990s, Maryland's road had more people working there. There are kind and great people that work there. There are lots of shops. The news reporters told everyone Maryland was dangerous, but we know that's not the case. Maryland is the safe place for you and I.
If we took a holiday.
And we'll pause that there. This is another one that got published out, and this is one of the ones that was highly successful.
Hi, what was it like being a teacher in Christopher Public School? Good, but it was hard because we didn't have that much technology that we have now. So was it hard being a teacher, or was it easy? Well, it was pretty hard, but we didn't have that much excellence. There was only one school. Thank you, Mom, darling. That's all the time we have for today. Bye.
so high that I can be out the way that I go. Look out, the words that I know. Be out the way that I know. And I'm not a bit awkward.
Okay, so there we can see another example of one of the commercials that the students actually developed and the campaign that they moved on with. Now, we're going to now move on to some students that were in Year 4, and these are some pieces of work that were developed around the concept of healthy eating and the concept of food production. Now, these ones are a campaign trail again, but these are going a little bit further. Rather than just the commercial itself, they were actually beginning to work on the entire campaign. Everything from the posters to the campaign to the business cards to the commercials that went out at the end, and they were then presented on a big gala day, a big open day where parents and visitors and guests came into the school, and the people who came through were asked to vote on which one of these healthy food options that the children had chosen would they actually consider eating for themselves. Which one had sold the idea to them? And we can see here one of the posters that the students made as part of their campaign. This is an example of one of the finalised ads.
Hi, I didn't see this. My name is Charlie, and are you looking for a refreshing smoothie? Well, you're in luck. Come down to our Smoothie Licious 6 smoothie bar and get a refreshing smoothie. You can get mango smoothie, strawberry smoothie, and banana smoothie. Do you like smoothie? I do.
Okay, so what we've got down there is we've actually got an example of both his So what we've got here and we've just seen is actually an example of his final campaign, his final ad, but also down the bottom there I've got his draft storyboard that he made with Adobe Voice. Now that initial draft was a different kind of a build-up to a traditional storyboard. What he did was he actually began to record his voice and began to record what his concept was and just build up an idea, and we can see his voice project.
Hi, my name is Charlie. Are you looking for a refreshing smoothie? Well, you're in luck. Come down to our Smoothie Licious 5 smoothie bar and get a
Alright, so the initial concept, as I've explained, was developing a concept and a storyboard using voice. We then edited the film in Premiere Elements. We then created posters in Photoshop, business cards in Photoshop. We edited some audio in Audition, and then we actually published them out to the public. And it was such a strong campaign, and the students learned so much by doing it.
Come down to our Smoothie Licious 5 smoothie bar and get a refreshing smoothie. You can get mango smoothie, strawberry smoothie, banana smoothie. Do you like smoothie? I do.
We use Premiere Elements predominantly because the system requirements of using Premiere Pro are a little bit too heavy for some of the computers that we have at our school, so we actually find that in a lot of circumstances we're better off using Elements for that reason. The students then made posters in Photoshop, they made business cards in Photoshop, they also edited some of their audio in Audition because they found that they didn't necessarily speak as clearly as they would have liked in their video recording, so they actually sometimes dubbed them back over again. We then run an art club at our school. The art club is predominantly populated by kids who like to get dirty. They're kids who like to actually get paint on themselves. They're not hand-picked artists by any means. They're actually just the kids who enjoy it. And we actually started to work with the idea of typography, and we actually started to work with the idea of building images out of letters and developing an unconventional story. And we can see here one of the examples, which is simply the word butterfly over and over and over again, but to make the image of a butterfly with the word butterfly thrown in there. And then these are actually printed in colour on parchment paper and then hand painted with watercolour as well to give. We can see here that we've got some owls, we can see here that we've got some flowers, we've got some leaves, we've got some different concepts, nice simple pictures, but the idea behind this was to actually use words that had something to do with the image to create the image, to create a story that was both visual, was words, was lettering, was designed, and an entire concept really. This is a bit of a zoomed in close-up of one of those owl pictures, and we can see the words that the students have decided to use: rare, lovely, hoot, crazy, different, quiet. Like, these are words that build the concept of an owl, but also create the image of the owl with the words themselves. Now, a project that is in the midst right now. This is a Year 6 project, which are 11 and 12-year-olds working on comic books, and they actually began by hand drawing sketches, sometimes tracing images that they had found. They then actually began to start tracing them in Illustrator, building them up, colouring in Photoshop, and moving on. The process that they used was to actually build upon an image and to step it up, to go, okay, now where do we go next, where do we go next? And we can see here that we've got images that were vectored, line drawn in Illustrator, we then coloured in Photoshop, we then published in InDesign, and they then eventually get exported out to interactive PDF. So the students are actually developing a workflow, a realistic workflow, around what's actually involved in telling a story and what's actually involved in publishing something out. Now we can see here some more examples of some student work along that same project, and you can see that everything's a bit different. They've all developed their own artistic style in doing it. We've got everything from very clean lines, we've got some stylized Photoshop documents, and we can see the large image on the left here that is the Dear Diary image. That image in itself is so complex, and what I'm going to do is actually open that up in Photoshop. This image in itself is both simple and complex. It's actually incorporated the original hand-drawn image. We can see the lines that were originally on the page, but if we come over to the layers palette and we actually have a bit of a look here, there are individual layers as I start to switch these off that are all named, they're all layered, they're all in their own components. But what she's done is she actually hand wrote the text itself in Illustrator, hand wrote it, didn't select the font, and actually then placed them on to every individual layer in paragraphs. The white around the outside is actually intentionally its own layer, it's its own background development, and the bit that really got me was actually the book colour, and I'm going to switch off everything except for that. She actually managed to select every single individual section of that page, leaving out the lines that were originally on the book line, so she could colour in that page to give it that particular parchment look about it, to actually give it that look. Now, the complexity of making something like that when you're an 11-year-old, I think, is truly amazing, and it's allowed these students to really develop something special and something that they're so proud of and something that they can really work with. And yeah, that's just an image that I think is just beautiful in so many ways. The students at Hilltop Road Public School are working right from kindergarten, and they're developing a workflow, and they're developing a series of skills that are going to help them to be creative and hopefully have the ability to move into a creative field and into creative careers, and actually have the skill set to solve problems and to create publications and to develop upon those skills. So I hope everybody was enjoyed looking at some of those work samples, and yeah, thank you very much.
So that's, I think, one of the most inspirational little snippets you're going to have. Once again, apologies from Brett that he wasn't able to join us today, but he did get called up for jury duty at the last moment. So what we're going to do now is move on, and I'm going to share with you some other AELs who are teaching, as we all do, and unable to be with us today. So I'm going to work through just some examples which really inspire me, and we'll start with some Year 6 and then move on to other students, move on to some senior students after that. This example you can see here is from Henrietta Miller at Roseville College, and every year her students they turn their picture books into hardcover books. So they go through the process of creating resources using Photoshop, putting text on Photoshop, editing photos, using graphics on photos to create their books, and then they print them out in a hard copy, and they get to keep them every year, which is really wonderful. Now I'm grabbing this information here. You can see as I'm scrolling through, they're putting text. They're using very multimodal. Take a photo, draw on some images, cut those out. Oh, yep. Hang on a second. That'll be back. Bad click there. Sorry, guys. Taken a picture, written the text for their movie. Done a little bit like, I don't know if anyone here remembers the Dot and the Kangaroo days, where we had an animation on the back of real footage. So they've done some fantastic work with that, and they're able to keep those books once they're created. So I'm going to show you a video as well of Henrietta's class, some other work they do a little bit later on. What I'm going to do now is move on and share you some work that really inspires me. This is a Year 7 English class, and Megan Towns is the teacher of this. And she uses Photoshop to teach, it's sort of like teaching students social media skills / focusing around digital literacy. So this is as if the students had to create an Instagram account as if they were William Shakespeare, if that makes sense. So they had to go through and find images that Shakespeare would have placed on Instagram, and then actually created the product. So this is a template that they're given, and all the white area and the black area is all sort of locked in, and students can't edit it. So they just come along and pop in the images and the text, put a little profile picture in, change the name here, all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. And then they move on to, and to differentiate it, which I love what Megan's done, this is a single post from Instagram. And as you can see, compared to this, where students would need like 9 images, a bit of work to go into that, this is just one image. So it's maybe a bit for the students that aren't so IT savvy, or the students that are still developing their understanding around William Shakespeare. But the thing I love about this one here, that the students have to create who would be following, who would be liking William Shakespeare's images. So that's kind of cool. And then what sort of conversation would they have? This is a really fun activity to do. And I think it can hit a lot of different subject areas and age groups. So, and there's also a Twitter like this as well. We are getting these activities from a wonderful place. I don't know if all you guys have been in there yet, but the Adobe Education Exchange has a whole heap of resources. So if you came in here and searched for Instagram, and just create yourself an account if you want to download the resources, I recommend you do that. And it will pop up then with all the Megan's activity here. There it is. Templates for creating fake Instagram posts and profiles. So that's a nice little example of how handy the Adobe Education Exchange can be for you. All right, just moving back now to some other, we'll go back to this one, click on this one, there we go. Moving forward, this is work from PJ Burns in Western Australia. He's at a senior IT school, a senior high school, and his students in his IT class are learning to play with Photoshop and Illustrator. And this was his students' first attempt at creating this sort of an object, and they clearly moved on to create such wonderful, powerful works like this one. This work here is from Beth O'Malley, who is at Forest Lakes High School in Queensland. And again, her students are learning, as you can imagine, how to portray different images and meanings and feelings through the images. Some great work there. I'm just going to close down now and move on to this work here. I'm not sure if the audio will come through. Is from Shaloni Naik in Western Australia. This is a Year 8 student learning how to use Flash. Hopefully you can see and hear that. Very cute. It's sort of Disney-esque, but it's still kind of got an edge to it, which is something I really like. So some more work from Shalom is, just watch this. There we go. This is work from her Year 11 students, and a wonderful infographic. I love infographics because they show really high order thinking. And this activity here, as you can see, the amount of understanding students have around graphic design, around digesting a whole lot of information that they found into one page, plus putting the graphics in there, plus working with text, plus working with data. It's pretty powerful and engaging learning. So this whole unit of work Shaloni did was focused around social media. So the students had to, as part of their work, they had to create a brief. So one thing Shaloni does, which I think is just fantastic, is the students have to create their portfolios around the projects that they're creating. So as they're developing these portfolios, you'll see it's like they've got their plan here for each assignment, the time planning, which is what happens in the workforce, right? We're given 2-3 weeks, something we have to map backwards, we have to plan it. You'll see here that what she's actually going to use, the information, colour scheme, the different features. Here's her design document and her storyboarding. See, she's drawn it on paper, taken an image and brought it in. My understanding is that they use InDesign for this portfolio work. And you can see it goes on, and it's so in-depth and so wonderful that I think the student will, being able to pop this into their portfolio or their CV and walk into a job interview is a very, very empowering activity for them to do. So moving on then, I'm going to show the video that was also created as a part of that. This guy, oh my goodness, this is a Year 11 and 12 student with the most amazing sense of design. This is his actual, he was focused around the iPhone and creating new apps for the iPhone. And you can see this work, it's just amazing. So this is his end work. And I'll show you his portfolio that he used to get to that. Just beautiful. Look at the texture that's in those. The work that they've done. As well as the creation of this document itself. I love how he's got himself a little signature. He's off and running. This kid is ready to rock the industry. So that's his work. Let's have a look at his portfolio. I think this is his, yeah. This is a portfolio for a website that he had to build as well. You'll see here we go straight from the initial brainstorm, moving into the mood board. So some of the starting to think about his where he's going to go with his website, looking at research. He's doing the empathy part of the design thinking, moving into still empathizing, still planning and brainstorming. Look at that. He's got himself a little Gantt chart worked out on where he's moving with his development. Then moving into all this planning that's being done, design of his map, and that's some early storyboarding, wireframes. It's just fantastic stuff. Seriously. I've just done some work with some web designers for a large project, and we got given the similar stuff. And this is his website at the end. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Done. So you'll see there that and it goes on and on. Beautiful project for the students. I think what I might actually, before I show videos, just while I'm sharing screen, there is this wonderful document in the Adobe Education Exchange to get you started. If you're thinking, yeah, but I remember probably about 5 years ago, I was like, which software do I use for which? I was so confused. And this document is a fantastic, there we go, a fantastic document to get you started. Thank you, thank you. And you'll see here that it's focused around activities. So if you want to play with images and pictures, then let's have this here. At the beginning level, Photoshop Touch is great if you're on iOS and, yes, I think it's on Android as well. Using Photoshop Elements, using Photoshop or Photoshop Elements, or even Adobe Revel. There's some new little apps we can chuck in here as well. Photoshop Mix is a great little app that we can use online, as is Lightroom. Lightroom's one of my favorite tools at the moment. So then if we're moving into an intermediate area, you'll see here some of the different activities we can do. When we want to do presentations, we can use PowerPoint to create some beautiful Presenter to create some beautiful flipped learning experiences, and students can be doing that as well. You can use InDesign to create presentations and then show it as a PDF on full screen, just like I'm doing now. Or you can create your digital portfolios as well using DPS. Using websites for news, I'll show you an example of a student news in just a second. And you see here all the different geek talk that I don't understand, but we've got, you can move up to using your fireworks. Photoshop can now create a full website. You can create your website on PowerPoint, Photoshop, all nicely, and then convert that into CSS code with the latest upgrades in CSS. It's good stuff. Moving into figures and illustrations, add on to this Adobe Draw and Adobe Shape. Great little apps to use, and you can see that this document is very, very handy. So this is available in the Adobe Education Exchange, and I will make sure that what we send out to you has that link. So let's then, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a minute, head back into the room. There we go. Thank you. And I'll ask some questions. So I'll grab some questions in a second. What I'd love to do now is just move on and show you some video work and some multimedia work that students have created. This is, remember right at the beginning I showed you Roseville Primary School and the books, the ebooks. This is a movie that the students make using Premiere Elements, and they have to, the brief is that they're news reporters for some sort of a natural disaster, and this student has chosen earthquakes as her natural disaster. This takes a second to start.
Hello, I'm Isabella Carino, reporting from the scene of Japan's largest earthquake, measured at a whopping 9 on the Richter scale, over 8,000 times stronger than the one that recently hit New Zealand. It was just yesterday at exactly 2:46 p.m. when thousands of people were evacuated from their homes in Sendai, Honshu, due to the 5th largest earthquake that has struck this planet. In Japan, 2 convergent plates created a shake with a 2,500 kilometer radius. The epicenter of the earthquake was located just off the coast of Honshu, only 372 kilometers away from Tokyo. Though the earthquake only lasted 5 minutes, the damage was almost unrepairable. Trains fell off tracks, buildings toppled over, and emergency teams are still searching for over 88,000 unaccounted people. Only
Welcome to the third episode of 2013 at Kingswood High. Generous donations from multiple companies have enabled us to get a new school bus. Taylor has the report.
Today at Kingswood High School we are receiving the school bus that has been generously supported by Gloria Jean's Coffee, the Variety Club and the De Lambert Foundation.
Having a new school bus will enable us to get into extracurricular activities and sporting events with more ease. The main contributors were the Variety Club, who raised 1/3 of the money, Gloria Jean's Coffee, who supplied $40,000, and the De Lambert Legacy Foundation, who raised $30,000.
Hi, I'm Ms Cass, and on behalf of the support unit at Kingswood High School, we'd like to make an amazing thank you to all our sponsors.
I've just stopped that video now. I think it's wonderful to see that this school is turning their newsletters into a digital medium. They place them up on YouTube when we're done. And it's a great little project, a great little group of students who work with one teacher to create these videos. And they come out every now and then. You can search for them at Kingswood High School on YouTube, and you will be able to find those videos. Let's have a look then at some of Shaloni. Shaloni, who's the teacher we showed the work a little bit earlier on. This is a competition that her students created around a movie. Tim Kitchen, who's online, might help. I think they're using Premiere Pro and After Effects for that, Sue-Ann. So they're using two separate, Premiere Pro and After Effects. So here we go.
If you stole from me, its course by the eve across the sky. Baby, just...
Okay, so we might just have a look a little bit. I love that video. It's a very powerful video. You can imagine the work that students went through to create that. And next, this is remember our social media video that we saw, the infographic that we saw for those students about social media. This was an accompanying video that was created to go with that infographic. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic example of, that's a moving infographic obviously, but a fantastic example of it. Another example from Shaloni's students who, in the same project, oh, it's not uploaded. Oh, yes, it is. Phew. Okay, so let's have a quick, this is sort of like the other end of the spectrum, but I still think it's way cool. So these students have created about Dropbox.
Storing your files. It used to be quite a mess. Thankfully, we've got and can't forget the vacation photos on your iPhone.
Today we stand and fight. You can be as fierce as a lion. Hey, you can be whatever you want to be. Hey, you can be as fierce as a lion. Hey, you can do whatever you want to do. This is your time to shine. You don't have to change the world, but today we stand and fight. You can be as fierce as a lion. Hey, you can be whatever you want to be. Hey, you can be as fierce as a lion. You can do whatever you want to do. Hey! Can you get what I'm putting down? Can you stand up to the crowd?
Okay, so maybe I changed my mind about showing that to the end. I'm just having a few connectivity issues myself. So the last thing I would like to do, or two more things, is just show you one more, my favorite teachers, well, not my favorite teachers, but one of my favorite teachers, work around. So this is a teacher, year 11 and 12 teacher, so let's think right at the far end of the spectrum. He's a teacher, a creative arts teacher in Western Sydney, and Gary Poulton's work is absolutely fantastic. So I'm just going to show you just a quick example of what to me uber creativity in schools is. These students, when they come to Gary in year 11, have often never touched Adobe tools, but he's able to elicit, so this is some work on typography, this is some flash work, this is just so cool, check this out. It's just, I'm mesmerized by this kind of stuff. And just can't imagine the processes that they go through to create that. So cool. Here's a nice little don't mind digging out, it'll go in just a second. There we go. So very cute. Here's another one. Fantastic stuff. And then some students using Illustrator to create animation style characters. You'll see as we go through they get more sophisticated as they get through to Year 12. Fantastic stuff. And again, these students, they're ready to walk into industry, you know. They're ready to go and just have fun and be their uber creative souls that they are. Gary himself is an avid photographer, and it shows with his students' work. What I love about the way Gary does this is he gives students tutorials to watch, and then they come to class and they tinker with him and they ask him questions, and he gets in and helps them to get through those problems that they were having at home. I think that's really empowering as a way to teach for students. Many might call it flipped learning. I call it a really fantastic way to get students failing more, to trying things and experimenting and coming to you with an idea. So here's some more examples. Okay. So we're pretty much getting to the end of our session. There's lots of different things that we can see, but what I wanted to do just to finish off is ask you guys quickly, I'm going to show you a video at the end of this, but if you'd like to pop some results in there for me, that would be great. Thank you. How you found this session. Basically, what you've seen now is a bit of a continuum from K to 12 of how creativity can develop. And we can use those activities both as the pure visual and creative arts, or just like the Instagram, the earthquake, the bookmaking, we can integrate it into our teaching and learning of different subject areas and different topics. Just like Brett does with his video around creative eating, around the history of their town. So if you could all just quickly pop a bit of feedback. I'm going to end with you with a video that the wonderful Tim Kitchen, who's online, sorry about this, Tim. Tim does a lot of work walking at, yes, it was called Rewind. Would you like the link to that site? I'll just get it for you. Hang on a second. Rewired is the link. And here you go. There you go. That's the link for it. If you just pop onto the gallery on that link. No worries. So Tim goes around and does a lot of work with schools. Tim's our senior Adobe education advocate in Asia Pacific. And he works with schools and supports them. And he's been doing these great interviews with teachers over time about what they think creativity is, as well as with students. So I wanted to end today's session with that video for you to see. It's such a fantastic and empowering little piece that we're just going to play out with this. So you can leave now if you like, or you can hang in until the end of the session. And thanks to Tim for doing this.
Creativity makes up everything. It allows me to express myself. Without it, the world would be bland and, in a way, ridiculous.
I always tell my students it's about having fun and to be creative. And once that pressure is off their shoulders, it's amazing what they come up with.
Creativity to me as a teacher is very important because I think it's a good quality to have. It allows students to express themselves. It allows students to be individuals and show different sides of their personality.
Look, I think every kid has an innate ability to want to create something. And they start in kindergarten and they're all creators, and then we gradually beat it out of them. So the trick, I guess, in education is to make sure we're not beating it out of them, because it's right there. And we've got to figure out how to keep it there.
Creativity means making my work original.
To me, at the upper end of the thinking skills set is creativity. Is kids actually constructing knowledge?
Every child is born with creativity. Quoting Picasso here, creativity is in every child. It's just growing up with creativity, that's the problem.
Creativity is important because we're going to get students actually being able to think outside that square, and therefore wherever they go in life they're going to be able to problem solve creatively for solutions.
Creativity is kind of what I live upon.
But it's very much a part of critical thinking. It's a part of everything we do. And so I think it's important that we do refocus in that area and we pay attention to what we need to put in place to build creative skills and competencies with our young people in using technology to expand their opportunities creatively.
I understand the importance of being creative in the learning process, and transferring that across the students is vital to me.
It's where you're going to go later on in life. If you have a very blunt mind, if you don't think outside the box, it's going to be much difficult for you to get higher ranking jobs. It's just going to be hard for you in general for you to go along in life.
It really means innovation to me. It really means thinking outside the box and coming up with new ideas and presenting them in a variety of formats.
I enjoy creating learning activities for kids, for teenagers, that involve them using different software tools to create solutions to real-world problems.
It means I can be different. I can do something that others don't do.
A big part of the educational experience that's been lacking is that creative part of the experience overall. Employers have told us this. We've seen it through observation that there is ever more a need to have creative problem-solving skills, to have solutions in the workplace, in the classroom, that are more fundamentally creative.
Creativity is very important to me because I think it fuels the fires of learning.
So thanks for coming, everyone. I hope you've had a really, really good session. Take care, and hopefully we'll see you all again sometime. Don't forget that we have a whole heap of professional learning webinars in Adobe all the time. And just, you can see all the links here. Just pop them in here. There you go. And just note that those are on at American times, but many of them do come across to our time as well. So see you all in the future, see you all online, and I hope that you've got some great ideas for developing more creativity in your classrooms. See you later, everyone.